on tour in Ecuador right now, and you can see on this boardwalk in Guayaquil. And I figured I would just discuss some thoughts on my mind, not really related to touring, but on the topic of liturgy as a form. So there's there's a literal Christian liturgy, and then there's liturgy in general, in terms of like the this synesthetic experience of doing anything, in a way, living life as art is kind of like living liturgy, and also conventionally we think of the church as having a restricted ecclesiastical domain where people have to be ordained to lead a service and that kind of thing. But there's another sense in which the church is somehow this kind of march of history, or this project of messianism, hoping for the emancipation of all people, and ingenuity, inventiveness, compassion. That there's a kind of that there's a world where all those things are in play that are directed towards the infinite. And you can feel how that's different from the mundane world, and so it's not, no one leading it is ordained, but it's holy in some way. So they kind of just get into some like detail on, I guess, like how the thought of like how to carry liturgy out. There's a theologian named Schmemman, who was actually the dean of the St. Vladimir's Seminary in the OCA, which is my church, and he's an eminent person in Orthodoxy, and he was involved in coining the idea of liturgical theology, and the basic idea is that the Christian liturgy itself is theology. It's primary theology. That theology isn't just a series of categories, that it's actually, it's not in your mind, it's not ideas, it's an embodied experience. And he sort of sought to recover the true liturgy from layers of theology that had been pasted on top of it over the years. And so, I'm going to stop there. Sorry, it was getting a little loud where I was. I'm back in my room now. So I was saying that Schmemman is associated with this idea of liturgical theology, where theology is carried out as a liturgy, as a rite that has a sequence that refers to something sacred, and one that is experienced. So another general Orthodox idea is that experience is the central topic, the central entity of Orthodox worship. So you can go further with this idea by applying phenomenology to it, because the limitation of liturgical theology, as well as the theology of experience, which are not the same thing, are that what a sequence of events is, or what experience is typically not defined. That's taken as given. But the discipline of phenomenology is all about, kind of rigorously and sensitively, delicately examining experience and then saying true things about it. So you can take ideas from phenomenology and apply them to liturgical theology. And that isn't done much. There's certainly plenty of work on theological phenomenology, where phenomenological ideas are used to examine more private religious experience, sacramental experience. People like Marion, and there's a whole kind of French scene that does this. But what is less common is a phenomenology of collective liturgical experience, which then also requires the intervention of more disciplines too, because once you're dealing with the collective liturgy, you're sort of faced with history, and so you have to talk about hermeneutics, and then you're also faced with the possibility, at least, that these experiences of the liturgical are only really possible on the basis of a material practice. And so there's an ecology, there's an ecological dimension that comes in, what has to happen for, if we're talking about traditional church, what has to happen for a worship service to go on. And so there's a book that I love, on Orthodox liturgy by Christina Geschwandner, that basically addresses this whole nexus. And there's a temporality, a spatiality, a corporeality, an affectivity, an intentionality, a communality, a sensibility to liturgical experience. Those are, I think those are her main categories. I mean, they're more or less similar to Kant's transcendental faculties, and one can really go into each of those and do a phenomenological analysis where phenomenology is being enriched by liturgical experience instead of being sort of sealed off in a private person's experience. So it enriches phenomenology. But then there's a little bit more precision in saying, ideally you would actually learn more about what is going on in liturgical experience. So it would sort of benefit, ideally not just sort of academic theology, but maybe even a parishioner or a practitioner would use these phenomenological insights in a spiritually rewarding way. And I think that's really more of my slant here, my maybe innovation or decentering. I don't really see phenomenology as so separate from worship in the first place. Whereas pure philosophers will kind of want to separate the two, where phenomenology is something scientific and then it's of this object, which is liturgical experience or religious experience or just experience as such. But I mean, phenomenology is meditating, so clearly it is spiritual. And then a sort of further turn of the screw, as Zizek always likes to say, is that once you're including materialism in the mix, then there's still the whole question of how the liturgy functions in kind of the whole human nexus, including the history and the economy and ideology and technology. And at some point that factors in, that sort of turns back around into the question of like, like not just what should art be, but like you just get into the question of the entertainment industry, basically, you know, where in a lot of ways, like we think of, say, I mean, you know, pretty ecumenical kind of, I mean, you think of a church service being a very restricted, specific thing, or Buddhist retreat, or you know whatever, and then the rest of the world being kind of normal and secular. But the you know, there is there is an attention economy. There is a whole sort of structure that is that like just the fabric of culture is in some ways spontaneous, and in some ways controlled, and in some ways kind of secretly controlled. And so you can bring all these ideas about liturgical studies into the question of how to use art to contribute in a sort of positively sculpting way to the social bond. And you know, my sense is that this is going to be a more and more important topic as time goes on. So there's some thoughts about that.